This is the Stephen Mansfield Podcast.
Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast. Great to have you with me, the podcast where we look at our generation through the lens of faith and leadership, character, and history. I want to dive right in. Recently, we have had some new abortion statistics released in the United States and certain conclusions urged upon us. And I'm going to say that I think those conclusions cannot be drawn and that the opposite is probably true. Now, you know that we had a Supreme Court case called Dobbs v. Jackson, and in that case, Roe v. Wade from 1973 was overturned. So what it did was it no longer made abortion rights a matter of federal law, which turned it then back to the states. So we now have some abortion statistics indicating that in the year 2024, 1.14 million abortions were performed. Now, that's close to what it's been in the past, but I just want us to pause for a moment and say if that number is anywhere true, and I'll discuss its truth in just a moment, that means that 3,100 children are killed in America every day. You take 1.14 million, you divide it by 365, you get approximately just slightly more than 3,100. 3,100 children killed in America every day. And you've heard me say this before. If you took any other slice of the population, 80-year-old women, 16-year-old black girls, 22-year-old, Inuit boys, whatever slice you wanted to take, right? I'm just making up any. And 3,000 were dying a day, it would be an international emergency. So we hear that stat. We don't quite understand what it means, perhaps in practicalities, but that means 3,100 deaths of children every day. Now, what I want to address, though, in this podcast is that some of the experts are saying, well, obviously, since we had the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade, abortions have shot up in America because that number is slightly higher than what we've had in recent years. And I want to say there's no way that we can know that. And the reason is that now the landscape in America regarding abortion is that about a dozen states outlaw abortion almost entirely. By the way, I want to say you want to be careful about that. We always want to preserve the life of the mother in our abortion laws. We always want to be careful about the rapes of minors, things of that nature. And I know it's controversial and not all my pro-life friends agree with me, but nevertheless, you want to be careful about an absolute in toto ban of abortion. But I'm grateful for the states that are rolling back abortion laws. I believe that abortion, other than in medically required situations, is the killing of a child. And so you have 12 states that have almost completely banned abortion. In other states, some abortion laws at the state level have expanded. New York has expanded. Wisconsin has expanded. California has expanded. In fact, Wisconsin just overturned a century-old anti-abortion law. So we are in unusual times. However, the reason that people say that this is an increase or that abortions have increased since the Dobbs case is that most abortions now are happening through medication. And it's happening through telehealth. So you have a nurse or a doctor and they are on Zoom or whatever system they use. And they prescribe what used to be called RU-486. Mifepristone is the drug that's most used now. And so you have these drugs prescribed, and then the doctor might talk them through the actual abortion. Here's the problem, though. These drugs are prescribed, but we don't know if they actually lead to abortion. We know the conversation happens. We know the drugs are prescribed, but there are certain shield laws that keep any real accurate records from being kept. And so we are living at a time where an increasing number of abortions are happening through medication, not through laying down on a table and having a doctor extract a child from a mother's womb. And so these stats are important. We by the end of 2024, 25% of abortions were provided via telehealth. Now that's 25%, which is a 5% increase. Still, though, the majority of abortions are happening in the office, in the doctor's office. So we know for sure that there is a decline in the number of abortions happening on site, so to speak, in the doctor's office in a medical facility. What's increasing, what's causing people to say abortions have increased is the telehealth prescription of abortion meds. And accurate records can't be kept, number one. Number two, just because you prescribe the medication doesn't mean it's taken. And in many, many cases, doctors will prescribe, but they don't follow up about the abortion itself unless the individual comes back to them. So telehealth has a problem in the reporting. And I'm not saying, I'm not accusing anyone of being illicit or illegal. I'm saying as far as the reporting, we know for sure that the number of abortions done actually in a clinic have dropped. Where there might be growth is telehealth, where abortion medications are being prescribed, but we don't have accurate records. These are particularly hidden by shield laws. And we don't know that just because the medications are prescribed, that abortion actually happens, because there often is not the continued care or communication with the telehealth provider. All of this I'm saying, I am not an MD, I am not an expert in this, but all of this I'm saying based on interviews and reporting from the medical community itself. So what people like to do is say, see, you overturned Roe v. Wade and now abortions are shooting up, the exact opposite of what pro-lifers intended. Well, I don't believe it's true. I certainly don't believe that we have accurate records. And you still, what is a law? Law is the codification of a value system. It's the codification of morality. And what we've got to be looking at in our society is how moral is abortion. I believe in women's rights. I believe in women's rights to control their own body. But a child's body is a separate entity, even if it's inside of a woman's body. It has its own life. It breathes its own air. It has rights. And abortion in our generation can be unbelievably cruel. There are actually states in the Union where abortion can happen in the ninth month. There are actually states in the Union that still engage in an abortion process that fundamentally has to do with partially birthing the child and then crushing it. Yeah, I know I'm being graphic, but it's important that we understand what's going on. We speak of abortion in an abstraction. We think we're killing off a few cells that have joined. But abortion can happen very late. Abortion can happen when that child has formed all of its major parts. Abortion can happen. In fact, in some states, I have 2 grandchildren, and I was around for both of their births. And had they been in certain states, the women who gave birth to my daughters-in-law gave birth to these children. Had they been in some states, they could have aborted them the day they were born, perfectly healthy and happy young babies. That's what's going on in our country. So I'm being a little bit graphic to make the point that abortion's not an abstraction. It's the taking of a human life. And if this slightly high, what I believe to be high number is accurate, 3,100 children are killed every day in America. I think it's high. I think the number's actually lower. Still, it's a travesty. And I urge you to consider that while many people are celebrating it as a victory, that we have telehealth and medications can be prescribed in any state, basically, and then a mother can terminate her pregnancy. This has a great danger factor, so we're being told by the medical community. It normally has to be done very early, and there's not the record-keeping, the follow-up by design, because when these telehealth episodes happen and then abortifacients are prescribed, sometimes they're done in states where this is disallowed. So medical people, doctors, nurses are trying to, in some cases, avoid prosecution because they're trying to help those they believe they should help in states where this practice is illegal. All of that to say, we've got a bit of a mess, but it's not because Roe v. Wade was overturned. Roe v. Wade was bad law. It was based on trimesters, which the medical community says doesn't have much to do, really, with the actual development of a fetus. And it's not the best way to think of the development of a fetus. Roe v. Wade was bad law. Even Justice Ginsburg said that Roe v. Wade was bad law, and the law was overturned and it was reversed to the states. Now the states have to make the decision. That's where the decision ought to be made. But is it true that abortions have increased in number since Roe v. Wade was overturned and reverted to the states to make the decision? No, it's not. And the issue still remains, is abortion moral? Is it righteous? Is it not the taking of a human life? And are we not, as a society, suffering from low birth rates to which abortion contributes? And will that not cause great problems in our society, as I have shared before on this podcast, where our birth rate now is 1.6 children per mother when we need a birth rate of 2.1, and especially with our new immigration laws, we're a nation heading towards trouble with a declining population and the need for an increasing tax base and an increasing labor pool. All of this intermixes, all of this, economics, abortion, etc., politics, it all intermixes. And we've got to get right with God, get right with the next generation, get right with each other.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator in international media. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and Lincoln's Battle with God. Learn more at stephenmansfield.tv.